effectively, the way you've structured it, you're at 0% interest. In 10 years, you'll have this thing completely paid off. Let's say you want to take this from $10,000 a month net, right? That's your take home, to 20 grand a month net, right? You've already got all the fixed costs, right? You've got employees, you've got your insurance, you've got your power bill, you've got your building rent, you've got all this stuff. What does Lindsey have to do to get this from $10,000 to $20,000 a month? How did you find this opportunity? How did you find the UPS store?
So when I got laid off in December, I got offered another position, and I've been wanting to buy a business for at least, I don't know, a couple years. And again, it was one of those kind of pipe dream things, and I was like, well, this is going to be my opportunity to actually go and force myself to do it. It was a big step though, because I'm like, well, I have this whole secure job thing that I could take, but then I was also kind of just like, I never saw myself in sales forever. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. And obviously, it was comforting that I had some capital to fall back onto if I needed it. So I took the step and I kind of just went in full time into looking at different businesses. And I knew that I have sales skills and I wanted to find something that I could utilize and leverage those skills to grow the business. And I somehow stumbled, honestly, across UPS. And somebody that I knew was talking about, because actually what it was, I watched Cody Sanchez interview with the lady with the mailbox pack and ship out in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
And
her name's Lisa Song Sutton. She's awesome.
yes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this makes so much sense. And so there was a pack mail actually across the street from where we used to live, and I would go in there all the time, and I just started looking at it and like just analyzing it. And then I was telling somebody else about pack and ships, and then they're like, oh, we know somebody that owns a UPS store. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I started digging into UPS, and I was like, this is a no-brainer because one, it's backed by UPS, but I just thought that all of the different revenues that they already have. You have what, one store or multiple?
Multiple.
Okay, so there's, so many different profit mixes in it, and I was just like, that's really cool. And so many of the owners are not doing anything with any of, with what they could with each of these stores. And I just, really did my due diligence on learning about it and trying to figure out what I would do in each of the different revenue streams and how I would grow that. And then started talking to a couple of the different area owners to try to figure out where I wanted to be, and ended up deciding that we wanted to stay in Florida. And I found a store there, and I started dealing with the area owner as the broker, if you will. And that was rough because I mentioned seller financing at the beginning of our conversations, and he was like, well, you're going to have to put this much down and blah, 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 all this. And he's like, I don't think he's going to go for it and all this stuff. And it wasn't until we had gotten under contract for the negotiated price that we had gotten to with traditional financing that I went to the seller after I was finally able to, get in touch with him directly. And I said, hey, this isn't going to work. Like, what can we do? And I really, really dug down to like what he needed to get out of the business. And that's when I was able to find or to come to these much better terms for really both of us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like people call brokers, they call them brokers, but I'm like, they're really blockers. That's all they are.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they block you from every conversation that needs to happen. They don't seem to care about having the conversation. They don't actually ask their clients or who they're negotiating on behalf of what's really happening, what's really going on, and what could accomplish those needs. And, a broker listening to this maybe in the future is going to go, no, that's not true. Yeah, it is. Like I cannot tell you how many of my deals start out the exact same way, where you go, hey, I want to do seller finance. And the broker goes, nah, that's probably not going to work. And then they throw out some, oh yeah, he's probably going to need 50% down or 70% down type of thing. Then he'll carry the rest and blah, 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 blah. Because they've not been educated. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like you were negotiating with this guy traditionally, and then your boyfriend sent you a video of mine in my Subto course. It was like in module 3 about how to negotiate seller finance. Is that right? At that point, had you already started talking to the seller?
I started watching that like a couple days before I had started talking to the seller. I had mentioned it like in the text conversation, like, hey, let's chat. Like because he knew I was having some difficulties with the bank. And so I arranged a conversation, and then that's when I started watching it. And it was interesting because, theoretically, like I don't have a job right now. So this is like my last ditch effort to figure something out for myself for my next step. And so my boyfriend was like, maybe this isn't the right deal for you and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, no, we're going to figure this out. It's going to happen one way or another. And I went from, when I watched your video, I went from this state of almost like a desperation mode to so comforted because I was like, even if this doesn't work, I know I can figure something else out. And I feel like I was, just in that short time, it gave me so much confidence to move on to something else if this didn't work out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Creative finance was like the thing for me that same thing for you. It's like that feeling, and think about like not just that feeling on buying a business, but now buying your next house or an RV park or a multifamily
Mm-hmm.
building. I looked at multifamily as an impossible endeavor for me. I was like, there's no way I'm getting into multifamily. I'm going to stick in single family. And then I was like, wait, I learned creative finance. I'm doing hundreds of deals in single family. And then I'm like, I'm going to try a 12 unit. Works out. Oh my gosh. If I can do a 12 unit, I can do a 30
You can
unit,
do
do a 30
anything.
unit, then another 30 unit. Then I'm like, I'm going to go to 50 units, go to 50 units. This coming Tuesday, we're closing on a $20 million seller finance, 160 unit multifamily deal.
I heard that's awesome.
I'm like, why the freak do they not teach this in school? Like, why is this
Yeah.
not a thing? And more importantly, why is it that the brokers and also this area manager that you were communicating with, it's like, why are they not immediately using this as a tool to get more businesses sold? Can I tell
Mm-hmm.
you, it's interesting, like on the business side, this is why like the zero down stuff that we're launching inside of Subto, the business buying stuff is so important. I've never seen a business purchased or sold that did not involve some sort of seller finance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, and also you're going to have a long-term relationship with the seller, not even from the seller finance perspective, but you're also going to have him involved in the business, I imagine, for the first 3 to 6 months to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
like everything's transitioned. So it's like, you already have a relationship with the guy. Might as
Yeah.
well get him the number he wants and give him seller finance. It's like, why
Yeah.
is this not the standard rather than,
Well,
the back
it's
alleyway?
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because the relationship between he and I got so much better once we started directly communicating with each other. Because so my attorney was working on, he has another store actually in Boca that's for sale, and I would love to scoop that up, but I don't know that UPS is even going to allow me to do that. So if you're interested in finding a store in Boca Raton, Florida, there's an option for you.
Why why
Um,
wouldn't why wouldn't UPS let you do that?
So I've asked them numerous times, I'm like, how soon can I get another store? Because that's my goal. And they're like, well, you have to be in your store. They're like, very, very rarely do they ever approve people to have buy multiple stores at one time. You have to prove that you can run your store and all this, the metrics, this and that, and hit all these numbers. And they're like, we don't think it's going to be a problem, but that's just what you have to do because corporate has to go through and approve you and all this stuff. And I'm just like, seriously? So
Why don't you and I just buy the deal together, and I'll put underneath my LLC and you can be my partner on it.
we can do that for
Yeah,
sure.
why when do you close escrow on this deal?
Hopefully by the end of September.
Why so long?
UPS didn't get the paperwork done to get me into the August training class, so now I have to wait to go to training till September, and then I have to finish all my training before I can own the store.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes,
Have you talked to the seller about his Boca Raton store?
yes.
And he wants to sell on seller finance or no?
He keeps saying that he's done seller finance because he had 5 stores total. He
Yeah.
has 3 in Florida, 2 in Chicago, and all of his deals have been seller finance. He's like, I don't think they're going to let me do it. They're not going to let me do it. And and to me, I'm like, all we can do is ask and they say no, and we can figure out why they are saying that. So
Why do they have to even know is my question. Like why couldn't we just buy his LLC that owns the store, right? Instead of me creating a new LLC to then transfer the ownership from one thing to the next, why not just buy into his LLC, start operating it and doing a seller finance deal, and then just work him out of the deal? Like there's no reason they have to be involved. And then one day you can just say, hey, he's retiring and he's passing the ownership off to this person. Like there's a way around UPS's permissions.
yeah. So the only thing that why I think it could be that could be a problem is because the broker is the area owner. And so he knows that he's selling it and he needs to get out. But the reason he needs to get out is because he has already bought a print shop, which is against the non-compete.
Mm.
So I don't know. That's if they figure out that it changed hands, and I'm with you. I'm, and Nick said the same thing. He's like, why is it any of their business how one you come up with the funds or how you structure the deal? If you're buying the business, you're buying the business. Shouldn't matter to them.
What I love about the area broker that you're talking to is that originally he's the person that's supposed to help get the deal done. You then just communicate with the seller directly and you work out a structure. I'm wondering how that area guy felt about it after you came back and go, hey, just so you know, we worked out a deal. It is seller finance. Everything that you said it wasn't going to work out, I made it work out because I just talked to the seller directly. Like, did he have a reaction to that?
Quite honestly, I haven't talked to him
Okay.
because I've talked to the people in his office and all that kind of stuff. So he's he's always around, but then always not available and traveling and on vacation. So I'm kind of just like, you make me feel like I'm inconveniencing you every time I talk to you, and you don't really seem like you actually want to help me. So I'm just going to go do this stuff and figure it out. And then, you can figure out what you need to figure out on your own because it's getting done without him. So,
Yeah.
and he's very nice. He's never been, nasty or anything. It's just, again, he gets in the way. And so I'm like, from my perspective, I'm like, let's just not have him involved until he absolutely has to be involved.
So you buy the business for $425. What's your first month revenue? What's your revenue? What's your net take home in for month one?
It's a good question.
You don't know yet.
I haven't dug that deep into it.
Do you know what the revenue is for the store is currently?
Yeah. So right now in 2022 it did right around 525.
Okay, so it's bringing in 40 grand, basically 40 grand a month, 40 something $1,000 a month on average.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have your rent, you have your employees. It's probably making $7,000 a month net, somewhere around there.
It's actually right around 10. The net last year was 122.
122. Okay, great. So 122, that's great. So 10 grand a month. So you're putting in a total of what, 180?
Yeah.
Okay, that's including your closing costs, your training, your working capital, et cetera. So you're 180. And if your net is 122, that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, you're looking, that's like such a great return.
Yeah.
Okay, so your cash on cash return is 66% cash on cash return. But what's even cooler is that he's seller financing the remaining portion of it at 0%. Like that is the most understated, unbelievable way to make stealth wealth. Yeah. What's your payment every month?
$2,700.
Okay, so you're essentially hammering down interest, not even interest, you're hammering down principal at 30 grand a year.
Yeah.
Like what's your balloon 10-year? Okay, 10-year note. So you got a 10-year note, you'll have this thing completely paid off, no interest included at all. So amazing. So, great job.
Question about that. So we originally negotiated, it was 450 at 0%, and he went to our escrow attorney, and the escrow attorney said something about taxes and
imputed interest. Yeah.
Yes. So we changed it to 425 at 2%, but it works out to be more or less the same monthly payment. So what do you do when you deal, like when people bring that conversation up?
I asked the attorney, I said, do you know any cases where the IRS has come back and done this and clawed back the interest? And the attorney say, no, I've never heard of it. And I go, okay, so what are we talking about here? Are we breaking a law? And they go, no, you're not breaking a law. There's a guideline. I go, okay, great. And here's where I learned this from. Okay. So I learned imputed interest about 7 years ago when I was really getting ramped up in creative finance. And I had a seller who was a CPA, and he sold his house to me at 0% seller finance. And I said, all right, cool, let's do the deal. And I'd done probably 15 deals at that point that were 0% seller finance, and I just didn't think anything of it. And then he said, I just want to point out to you that I'm interested, and it's very interesting that you haven't brought up to me imputed interest. I go, what the heck is imputed interest? Nobody's brought this up to me. And he then educates me on the fact that IRS says, hey, here's a guideline that if you're going to sell on seller finance, you need to be charging it's about like 1.7 or 1.8% interest minimum. Mm-hmm. And I go, oh my gosh, okay, that kind of hurts the deal, like the way we've structured it. He goes, nope, I've been a CPA for 50 years. Nobody's ever heard of the IRS coming back and clawing back imputed interest. It's not a thing. In order for somebody to ever get clawed back on, the IRS would have to audit your entire financials and dig deep into these notes that we've created. And then somebody would have to see the note, see the interest, and go, wait, why aren't you charging interest on this, right?
Hmm.
And he goes, so number one, stop worrying about it. And number two, if you ever run into that issue, all you have to do is change the purchase price and add 1.8%, which is what
Oh,
you did.
exactly what we did. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just chose to go the route of 0% seller finance rather than 1.8%. But
Hmm.
either way works, and they both work out to basically be the same thing.
My seller was actually the one that had mentioned it to me, that he was like, well, if we do the 450 at 0%, he's like, I'm at least guaranteed more money. Whereas if
Right.
we do an interest rate, you could pay it off early and then I not get the money. And I was like, I'm glad that you brought that up before I even had to. But yeah, he was the one that came back and was like, let's do it 425 and just do it, 2% and be done with it. I was like, that's fine. So
Yeah, it works out great. So you got a
yeah.
30-year note, which is awesome. Or sorry, 10-year note. You're at basically effectively the way you've structured it, you're at 0% interest. In 10 years, you'll have this thing completely paid off. Let's say you want to take this from $10,000 a month net, right? That's your take home, to 20 grand a month net,
Hmm.
right? You've already got all the fixed costs, right? You've got employees, you've got your
Hmm.
insurance, you've got your power bill, you've got your building rent, you've got all this stuff. What does Lindsey have to do to get this from $10,000 to $20,000 a month?
Training with my employees.
Yeah.
That's my first place that I'm going to start. They're not upselling, they're not cross-selling, they're not doing a lot of things because he's been, I think, pretty hands off. They do a fair amount of Amazon business, and for me, I'm like, that's free money, but that's not something I would want to rely on because
Mhm.
that's, Amazon could pull that contract at any second. The print business is non-existent in this store, and that's something I really want to focus on because, everybody does social media stuff, but there's still a lot of stuff that is printed, and nobody really thinks about UPS stores when it comes to printing, and that's anything. And I want to take it, I think a lot of the UPS stores that do printing, they think of it from small scale, like, okay, your flyers, your business cards, those types of things, and some wide format banners. But I'm like, anything that needs to be printed, whether that's, a cup that has a logo on it or whatever, you can print that. And you outsource it or get stuff to do it yourself at some point. That's my goal, is to honestly have a UPS store that is disguising a print hub.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I like those ideas. A couple of things. So my UPS store, I would go in there and I go, oh, one of my employees is always a notary, right? And
Hmm.
nobody knows this. Like nobody knows that you could go to the UPS store and just get something
Get
notarized for like
notarized. Yeah.
$12 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows this. I'm like, why did I not know this?
Yeah.
This is actually what happened at my UPS store. I went to pick up my mail and just talking to the people and talking to the team and all that kind of stuff. And they go, don't you got to go? I go, no, I'm waiting for a notary. Like, you're meeting a notary here? I go, yeah, I'm meeting a notary here. They go, why? I'm a notary. What? So what you think, if you think about this, if you think about it as, how they have mobile notaries now, or they now are
Yeah.
starting to do digital notaries, you
Hmm.
could actually have a full-time employee on your team that's doing notarized business outwardly for like real estate agents, et cetera. And then as they're out
Yes.
there, they go, hey, just so you know, I work for the UPS store and we do this kind of print and business cards. Does your office need business cards? Do you guys need this? So essentially, they're an outbound salesperson who's already getting paid to go out and travel to go do these notaries. So that alone will bump up your revenue on a store probably another $10,000 to $15,000 a month minimum just by having that person on
Easily.
the team. Yeah.
Yeah. And they do have, the manager there is a notary, but they're not doing very much of it. And they're not marketing and they're not selling at all. And that's,
Yeah.
again, because I've had a sales background. I'm like, there has to be some kind of outward reach here. Like, you can't just rely on the customers coming to your front door and saying, hey, I need this. You can do that if you want to have, like you were talking yesterday, your hamburger shop conversation, like that was spot on. And it's just, what I would love to do, there's a college that's close to my store. I'd love to hire an intern and help teach them this. And then also, just like, that's my goal, is to have businesses that I can teach other people how businesses can carry you into wealth, because so many people see, they don't even, we went to a Subto meetup last week and people were like, you're buying a business? That's so cool. Like, how do you do that? How do you get into that? And people, it seems like this foreign concept to people. And they're like, where do you even find businesses?
Yeah.
And it's insane because, like we were just talking, what you can get out of a business financially it's, amazing.
Yeah. It's
And
ridiculous. Like you have right now, you've got a business that I look at most UPS store owners. What they do is they go, okay, I want to take my income from 10 grand a month to 20 grand a month. So their
Hmm.
default answer is, I'll just buy a second store,
No.
which is literally what this guy did. He's like, okay, I want 50 grand a month. So I'll just go buy 5 stores
Yeah.
instead of doing what you're going to do, which is I'm going to be an active participant in my business for probably 24 months. I'm going to get
Hmm.
amazing teams in place. Once I get things going, I'll bring in a general manager, and then I can stop and go and do the next thing, and then the next thing. And then before long, 5 years later, I've got 17 businesses and I'm not involved in any of them. And,
Exactly.
going back to like the Subto meetup, on September 1st, we're launching the Zero Down program inside of Subto.
Hmm.
And people are like, how much is that going to cost? I'm like, it's free. Like, you guys need to know
Wow.
how to buy businesses with creative finance. So we'll have Matt Sorensen, my business buying attorney, my CFO, Ben, Cody, and a handful of other people doing another series of Zooms every single week, teaching people, where do we find businesses? How do we run the financials? How do we turn a business around like yours, right? Like, that's one of the biggest things that you're doing. It's kind of like flipping a house. People go,
Yeah.
okay, well, what do I do? And how do I hire the contractor? And how do I make this beautiful? You're doing the same thing in a business. You're like, this is an outdated thing. It needs to be updated. It needs to be remodeled, and not literally
Yeah.
remodeled, but the employees need to be remodeled. The systems need to
Yeah.
be remodeled. Your business experience, primarily your sales experience, is what's going to take this thing from 10 grand a month to $25,000 a month, which is
Hmm.
exciting. Like, I
Yeah.
want to make sure I do a part 2 with you, because I want to see in 6 months where you're at and what
Okay.
businesses, what avenues of revenue you added, which ones you thought were going to work out but didn't work out, because there will be some of those.
For sure.
And how your personality works out with hiring, training. I feel like you're going to crush it. Like, your personality, you're going to change these employees around, and you're going to hire some amazing people, cross train them on sales and incentivize them properly. And you're going to be like, dude, this one store makes me 25 grand a month.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited. I hope
I'm
so.
excited for you.
I want to, I want to make an impact in people's lives. That's my biggest thing. My dad took very good care of me, but my mom on the opposite. My parents divorced when I was very young. She always struggled, and it's people that are in those struggle types of situations. They either figure it out and they get out and they do really, really well, or they're
Mhm.
just like, I don't have the resources. I don't know where to go. And I want to be able to just be a resource to my employees, and I want to be known for, hey, she's this badass business person that also really does a great job helping people get forward in their lives, and that's what makes me sleep at night.
I'm
So
impressed. Super proud of you. Super excited
thank you.
for
Do
you. I want to hear all about it. So
you want to hear more
you,
about his second store too?
yeah, I do. I really do. Like, if that's an opportunity, and we, like, why not do that deal? I know right now you're like, well, I'm, going through training, I'm doing all that kind of stuff. Well, it might take a couple months to structure the deal. Like, why not go to him and go, hey, I've got a partner that has other UPS stores that would, maybe come in, and we could set it up in a way that it wouldn't be me buying it. It would be maybe this other guy buying it. Would
Hmm.
you be interested in selling like, maybe we structure it that way. Maybe it's
Yeah,
my name going through the thing. And here's the thing. If you don't buy it and this guy's trying to get out, guess what's going to happen? He's going to sell it to somebody else.
exactly.
So why not just gobble it up right now and go, all right, I'm going to focus on this one store, let the other store kind of do its thing for the next 4 or 5 months while I focus on this one store. But
Hmm.
at least we own it until you're ready to, like, go back in and do it. So the answer is, yeah,
Yeah,
let's go get it done.
yeah. That's exactly. Again, once I watched all your stuff, I'm like, that this is possible. How do I make this come to fruition? So the last I talked to him, I said, hey, I'm like, I'm very interested in that. If you don't get any bites and stuff, I'm like, I'm gonna keep bugging you about it. And he's like, all right. So what do you want me to do as far as making the next step happen for that?
I would reach out to him and go, hey, I've got a partner that has experience in this stuff, and he's bringing capital to the table, so I could easily take on the second store. What do we need to do to buy that second store? What does that look like?
Okay. Yeah, I
And
know
he'll
he'll
say,
be
well, I
he'll
can't
be all
sell
for
you
that.
2 stores, blah, blah, blah. And go, I know it's not going to, I will help run them, but it will go under my partner's name, so it doesn't look like I'm the one buying the second store.
Hmm.
Then that way UPS won't block you.
Sure. Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much
Congratulations.
for thank you. I appreciate it, and everything you're doing is amazing, and we appreciate you. Nick loves you too, and let's keep
We
doing
just
what we're
want,
doing.
I'm excited here's what I'm excited about. Not only your success on the store, but I'm excited to watch you come back into the community and impact other people with your story. And I know that's what motivates you. So I'm super excited about that.
Thank you. Awesome.
Okay. You're amazing.
Well,
Have a good
hey,
day.
thanks you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.